Hi, Deacon Ed McCormick here on this second Sunday of Advent, and today I'd like to talk to you about the worldwide impact of Jesus coming. During Advent, we celebrate the conviction and the belief that Jesus has come, He will come again in glory, and that He continues to come into our lives and in our world. Now, today's gospel begins with this kind of panoramic view, this cinematic view of the ancient world. And it starts with this opening picture of the palaces of the Caesars on the Palatine Hill in Rome above the Roman Forum. And there stands Caesar Tiberius, the most powerful man in the world. And then the camera shifts to the northern shores of Israel, the beautiful white sand beaches, and on these shores are all kinds of castles and fortresses, an amphitheater, and there is Pontius Pilate, who lives at the beach except for when he has to go to Jerusalem during Passover. There is Pilate, the brutal governor of Israel at the time of Jesus. And then the camera moves inland, and now we see the Sea of Galilee and the hills of Galilee, the farmland, and we see at Tiberias, the city of Tiberias, one of the Herod boys. And then we see in northern Galilee one of his brothers. And then the camera shifts down to Jerusalem, to the Jerusalem temple, and across from the temple up on the hill are these magnificent mansions where the high priests live. The old high priest Annas and the current high priest Caiaphas, who Jesus will meet at his interrogation before he dies. And Luke's gospel sets this scene, and then the whole thing moves to the Judean desert. Down in the desert by the Jordan stands John the Baptist. And then Luke says the following: the word of God came to John in the desert. So you notice this contrast. You're getting this contrast between the most powerful people in the world, Caesar, his governor Pontius Pilate, the Herod family, and then the very powerful high priests. And then you have this nobody, John the Baptist, who is about to baptize this nobody from Galilee, from Nazareth, Jesus. And you're getting this stark contrast between the most powerful people in the world and these no-name, powerless two people, John the Baptist and Jesus. But there's another part to this contrast. It's the contrast between the way these political and religious figures use their power and the way Jesus and John the Baptist used theirs. Tiberius was a brutal emperor, and as his life went on, he became mad and violent and dangerous. And Pilate himself was known to be very cruel and vindictive and corrupt. And we know the Herods, one Herod had John the Baptist killed. And then when you turn to the very powerful and wealthy high priests, and the way they wielded control over Jerusalem and over the temple. And that is so different from the kind of power that John and Jesus exhibit. Now, what's interesting is Luke's setting up this scene, and he starts from the empire to the governor, to the local Roman officials, to the high priests. But then he tells a story that rolls out in the opposite way, because it's Jesus in his ministry that ultimately transforms Jerusalem and the people of Israel and has an impact on the Herod family and ultimately on Pilate. And finally, Jesus' impact extends out to the entire Roman Empire. And at the beginning of the Acts of the Apostles, we hear this. We hear the risen Jesus telling his disciples to go and proclaim the good news to all people in Jerusalem, to Samaria, to the entire Roman Empire, to the ends of the earth. And so what Luke's doing is he tells us about this setup this weekend. He's saying that the coming of Christ comes small, he's insignificant, and yet he has a power that is extending out to the entire world, transforming the whole world as God's kingdom more and more takes over. Now, I want to bring this message home to you in a personal way. Since Christ is coming in the power of the Spirit with God's kingdom to transform the whole world, he's also doing that in our lives. So are there parts of your life where Christ has come and healed you or forgiven you? Are there relationships in your life where he has come and created some kind of healing and reconciliation? And are there memories you have, past experiences that the Lord needs to come into and heal and free you from? Are there situations and relationships and experiences right now in your life where he needs to come to bring his light and freedom and healing? And there are probably parts of your life that you're a bit ashamed of, you don't want to admit, kind of darker parts. He wants to come into those parts of your life, not to make you feel terrible, but to free you and heal you and turn the energy you put into those places for good, for his mission. See you in the next video.